Hi, thank you so much. How are you? I'm so happy, so glad to be part of this forum today. And I also want to give thanks to all the members who have actually decided to give up their times, their schedule to be part of this program. Also, not forgetting the organizing committee who have actually worked tirelessly to make this event happen today. Last, I also want to also recognize the effort of my coordinator, Mrs. Jessica. Thank you so much for also linking me up to such productive discussions. In the first place, I also want to start by my names. My names are Marwan Adinsa. I'm a Nubian refugee residing in South Sudan, and I'm 31 years old of age. Current, I'm doing my master's at University of Juba, pursuing research and public policy analysis, as well as also my other qualifications. I hold bachelor degree in public administrations and management, and also a diploma of leadership and management. As I said it into the beginning, that being a refugee did not only become as an identity, but also my passion, because out of the experiences and all the challenges that I have to come across being in refugee setting. I first left my hometown at age of 9 years. That was in 1999 when I set my journey to seek for refuge in Kakuma, a refugee camp that was in Kenya, due to the civil war that was between the Sudan army and the government troops. And upon being in Kakuma refugee camp, the way life was, nobody is a story to tell of it on page. And I really don't want to go detail because we are also time cannot allow us to discuss many of our experiences. But I also wanted to say is after finishing my 13 years and finishing my high school in Kakuma camp, I also decided to set back my journey to the village, where I also faced another civil war that happened in 2011 June in Nuba Mountain between the SPLM forces and the Khartoum government due to the inconvenience of the electoral results of the governorship positions in the region. And that also led to a displacement of many majority of Nubians people. And as you know, as when there's always violence and war, women and children become the victims. And that actually forced many of the populations to flee to seek for refuge along the South Sudan border at Yida and Ajongtok refugee camp respectively. And no wonder that I became also again a second refuge home in Yida and Ajongtok, because that became my second destination after leaving Kakuma refugee camp. Also in 2013, being a teacher in the refugee setting and having taught for those years, I also decided to take my chance to go to town and come to Juba, where I can actually try to see if I can get opportunity of pursuing my higher studies. But also, I was also encountered by another violence that broke out in Juba town. The war that began in 2013 and also in 2016, that also forced me to also flee to a third country, that is Uganda, at Bidibidi refugee camp settlement in northern Uganda. And as I've said, being a refugee was not only an identity in this case, but became my passion, because it was like I'm now a full citizen of a refugee, bearing me in mind that I've been into 3 countries as a refugee, and also having taught in that setting of a refugee and displacement areas. That gave me much experience to explain why I prefer to be given a refugee citizenship. That was actually part of my life experience in the refugee setting. I want to approach the point of the discussion, and I'm actually tackling the first part of it, of the topic of today, that says that what are the opportunities and challenges of developing, actively supporting non-hegemonic ways of producing knowledge in relation to displacement. In this regard, or in this topic of discussion, I've broken it, categorized it into 3 formats, where I looked at the opportunities, the challenges, and the ways forward. And actually, as a refugee or a displaced person, uh, opportunities, even if I don't say that they are not there, there are many opportunities that we can actually get it and we are exposed to, but may not be to the standard of what the human nature may require. But most of it, challenges outweigh all. And I wanted to actually discuss little challenges I've actually encountered, and as from the point of experience, that where I think the humanitarian agencies and then the academicians should actually emphasize and put the effort to rectify and actually improve these such issues. On the first issue here, I wanted to talk about racial ambiguity. In literal meaning, it refers to a person whose racial background is not easily identifiable. And we are saying racially ambiguous people are always individuals who are frequently misidentified racially. You really take, for example, people fleeing their country as a displaced persons and then running to a third country of choice or second country where you really want to seek for refuge. And again, you realize the host community, the humanitarian organizations coming on the ground also, sometimes when they don't address you, it's like they have never understood who you are actually. And the host community actually, some of them misunderstand who a refugee is. They begin to see to be called a refugee is like you are from a different race. You are not like a fellow colleague. You are not like a fellow human being, you see. They begin to actually make you look identifiable, and you feel like you are so different. Humiliation, stigma become part of you, and then you feel like, why only me? And this actually has always has happened to actually individuals who are actually displaced. Not far from me, as one of the person who was 3 years being displaced from a country to another country as a refugee. And this also forced me to say that a race is perceptively ambiguous, and stigma is assigned, and normativity is imposed through discursive constraint or any other means. And therefore, racially ambiguous individuals use many forms of resistance to navigate this encounter and make identity claims that either affirm or endanger the normativity of the racial formation order. So you realize some of us, refugees or displaced persons, we always feel like, who are we then if we are not given what we feel like we need? If we find that people around me, people have come to as a visitor, always don't receive me, and then I always feel like I'm really from a different planet. You see, it's like where I come from, they don't know that these people always exist, this country exists, these communities exist, and then they always you always look like you are not being identified who you are, and that is where racial ambiguity actually comes in as a concept and as a challenge to people who are actually displaced. And as academicians or intellectual, we need to really create awareness and educate people on how to actually eradicate such error when it comes to misidentifying people or judging people without actually knowing who they are. Because some of other people begin to even say it is because of your mistake, that's why I forced you to leave your place. But actually, we always know conflict doesn't tell when it happens, and you may not know who to cause conflict, but you'll always only realize that you are a displaced person. Another challenge on this point, I also want to talk as patterns of inequality as being one of the major also challenge in this regard. This pattern of inequalities actually also try to subdivide it into two, where we look at inequality in form of gender and also in form of classes. And we're saying this give broad trends in patterns of inequalities, especially when I talked of classes like the wages and expenditure. And this also goes to the regards of the staffs. As a teacher in the refugee context, I've taught in many countries where I've been to as a refugee, and you find that you all of you might be teachers. No wonder even some of us may all have big positions, administrative positions, and then or maybe being overloaded with work, lesson plan, scheme of work, and then at the end of the day, when salaries come, you are told that a refugee salary scale is also different from the host community teachers. And in some point, even the refugees are the one carrying the heavy load, because we are trying to help our fellow refugee children. And but again, you find that you are not paid equally just because they call you as a refugee. And that always created a gap in me, and I always feel like I'm uh, traumatized. I'm so much stigmatized. Why, if we deliver the concepts in class, if we always do lesson planning, if we always do the scheming of work, we approach the same methodology of learning and teaching, and then at the end of the day, the benefits, the compensations, actually is not given equally as all of you teachers, but it is given based on who you are called to. And I see that being part of inequality actually when it comes to wages and expenditure. And I really call in that we as intellectuals and the humanitarian agencies, we really need to see how we can address such concepts. Being called a refugee doesn't mean that you are not able to deliver. Some of us can deliver better. But again, when it comes to compensating the hard work, it is always given along the line of the classes of people being a refugee and being the host community. And I also saw it was actually, if we really want to see how we can address it and put it in the proper context. Under pattern of inequality, I also look at gender. You realize, based on our different cultural backgrounds and then our different contexts of areas, women are so much victimized. Yes, women are not given opportunities to be exposed to education. They are looked at like housewife materials. They only look like people who are supposed to be in the kitchen. Even if a degree holder, you are married, you keep your paper under a pillow. You see, such experiences. And then, as intellectuals and people whom we are trying to become the agent of change in the global context, we really need to send that message, and let be like an amplifier. We need to be like the amplifiers that amplify sounds, and we send out a message, a clear message that what men can do, women can also do it best, in actually coming up and improve the life standards of and everyone as human beings. So pattern of inequality actually became also one of the challenge, also as in the displaced regions. We also see, as from the perspective, like when I was a teacher in Yida refugee camp and Ajuang Tokia in South Sudan, you find if there are teachers, like 20 teachers, out of 20 teachers, you may have maybe a female that is only one, and then she is not even being put as somebody. People begin to look at her as she's just a woman, you see. And I always try to see if tomorrow I can rise and talk for the best on the interest of being equal. Yes. So I always also advise my men that women, for you to become a man enough, you need to have a woman standing by your side. So we really need to encourage and empower girls' child education. We need to also see, even if women, like you find in refugee camps, most of them, they are victimized. They are dropped from school because of early pregnancies. They are seen that they are just women. We only value them when it comes to the dowry that we might get in return after their marriages. And I really want to feel like such concept should really not actually continue. And we really, as a person who really wanted to discuss, some this might be part of our topics, so that we improve the quality of learning. Because if we have professors, if we have teachers who are women, then it will really raise the morale of the women, and they may pick up from there to want to be as that woman as their role model in some part or in some aspects. To continue also there, I also say that I wanted to also say such program that is being organized today, we should really continue with it, and then we need to really find a common consensus ground to empower and give that capacity building initiative to actually to the leaders and the people, the intellectuals who are in the displaced zones. However, I also came up with the ways forward, and one of the ways forward that I put in my setting here, I've said that as a humanitarian organization and academicians, for us to improve the quality of learning as in refugee settings, we need to change this concept of only relying on the fixed structures of learning like classrooms, chalkboards, and we need to turn to online learning system where we need to initiate actually this program of learning online. Students, teachers in the refugee setting or displaced zones, we need to expose them to understand the global dynamics. Is because I'm aware, even me, before I came to realize that there is something called online learning. I will always rely on chalk and the chalkboard, and then I always getting research work is a bit difficult. But making online learning studies, you are always exposed to too many researches. You are always able to get educational materials that help you to deliver more to your learners and people whom you are really helping. So we need to encourage online learning strategies and put it into context. Also, I'm trying to say that as a teacher, I've always taught in these three countries, in Kenya, Uganda, and also in South Sudan. It's a bit difficult. You find teachers, the refugee teachers, displaced person, services like higher education and colleges are not available in the refugee settings. So it is our role as academicians and humanitarian agencies to actually find if we can really plan and set up colleges, vocational training centers, putting up higher education of studies, so that when these teachers actually raise other giants, then they are able also to be upgraded to go to higher studies, so that we don't again move from towns to town. And again, you move when you don't have even enough capital or tuition fees to go and pay. You again need to become and exposed to other hard work in the city, construction work, does all the manual work. And then you really need to get something for your stomach. You also need to look for the rain, you see. But if we really actually look to set up institutions in the refugee settlements, like higher institutions of learning, colleges, university studies, even if one in any displaced zone, it will really help. But if you realize in Kakuma, actually, I've been there for 13 years, finishing senior four. Now that was the end point of my studies. When people are trying to do PhDs and I'm with senior four certificate, this is a big challenge. So where will I supposed to upgrade my senior four certificate if at all we have not actually given the opportunities to go for higher studies? And that's why I talked of introducing actually institutions of learning. And also we need to have initiative of trainings of teachers. You realize in the displacement settings, teachers, there are so many who are not trained. They are not actually gone to the teachers training colleges. There might be a student from high school, but because of the situation they are in, they have to also come in and help. But how long will we continue to help when we are going to also be asked of professionalism or qualification when we come to towns? You are told, yes, you have taught for 10 years. Are you a trained teacher? And then you begin to say, you see, I was a refugee. But that does not work. So actually, I really encourages humanitarian organizations who comes on the ground to help the displaced people and the intellectuals who are in the camps to actually empower and train teachers to equip them and add value to their papers that they are holding, so that they will really feel upgraded and feel to understand the fast growing technological world of today. That I wanted to say those are some of the ways forward that I think I need to contribute. I know I may not have come up with the points the way actually the discussion might be required of me, but I think I will be learning as time goes on. And I also really encourage the organizing committee, and so that such discussion continue, and I'll be part of it to actually. I'll really be happy to be part of it to share and also get experience, so that I'm able to help the rest of my colleagues whom I'm with here. And one of my aspirations now is to become a refugee ambassador. I really feel like moving around, talk to young men and young women who have been in refugee setting, who are almost around giving up in life. Because if I had actually decided to give up, then I might have not been in this position of being a master degree candidate now at the University of Juba. Otherwise, I'm so privileged to be part of this discussion. And once again, I have to say thank you so much for having given your time to listen to what I'm actually trying to say. I may not have put it rightly, but I know by so doing you will help me learn and I'm so happy and wishing to also actually come overseas for trip, also see how other students, how other academicians, how other intellectuals are interacting with the latest global trend. And that is one of the issues that is really affecting me now. I'm supposed to be live on Zoom call, talking to you people, seeing you people, and you also see me. But because of the background where I come from and the situation I've been in, I'm not able to actually appear on the way how you people and the rest of the members are appearing right now. But I know technology has also helped me send out my audio, and I really appreciate such things. Otherwise, thank you so much. Also, once again, may God really increase all your ages so that we really live to become an ambassadors to send message and improve actually the quality of learning globally. Thank you so much.